Hello you beautiful people, and welcome to another thrilling episode of Tech Spurt Weekly. And I couldn't really think of a decent intro for this week's show, to be perfectly honest, so I thought what I would do is I would just tell you about a dream I had the other night, because if there's one thing that people love, it's hearing about other random people's dreams. So there I was, just standing in a graveyard, nice cheery setting, minding my own business, when who should come wandering by but beloved DJ and supermarket sweep host Dale Winton. And we caught each other's eyes, we exchanged polite nods, and he went wandering on past, when all of a sudden there was this big violent gust of wind and it blew his hair right off of his head. So I'm guessing it must have been a toupee or something like that, although I'm pretty sure in real life he didn't wear a toupee. He had like a luxurious hair of head. Head of hair? I swear I haven't even been hitting the scotches with breakfast this morning. I think my brain's just had enough, frankly. But yeah, I'm pretty sure he had plenty of hair, so I'm not really sure why my unconscious brain would make him a baldy git like me in my dreams. Probably just jealousy, to be honest. So anyway, baldy dream Dale went chasing after this toupee, desperately trying to grab it. It was flapping about in the air like a pissed up crow. Eventually the wind died down and the toupee landed on a nearby tombstone. So Dale was like, went over to get it. His fingertips were just about to touch the furry rug thing. All of a sudden another violent gust of wind and it goes carrying up into the air again. So basically the whole scene just repeats. Dale jumping about, waving his arms in the air, the toupee flying just out of reach. Eventually the wind dies down, the toupee lands, he goes to get it, and then it's bundled back in the air by another massive waft. And Dale is understandably quite exasperated by this turn of events, and he starts swearing, but swearing like a 5-year-old. So whereas most people would probably be like, Dale was like, poopy breath farty gas. And it's just kept on going on and on. Every time the toupee would fly just out of his grasp, he would yell something like pointy nipples smelly bum. It's almost like he thought he was back on television and trying not to say anything too rude. And the weird thing is as well, I just stood there absolutely transfixed the entire time. I didn't even move, I didn't even try and help the poor guy, despite the fact he was clearly in quite a state by the end of it all. And then eventually I woke up. And the first thing I did upon waking up was I grabbed my smartphone, I immediately googled, does Dale Winton wear a toupee, because I wanted to clear this up good and proper. And that was when I discovered he actually died 2 years ago. I had no idea. 2018 he sadly passed away. And that's when I thought, was this dream actually a message from Dale, reaching out from across the void to deliver some sort of message of hope to us all? Like, yes, times are obviously really tough right now, tougher than they have been for a long time, but no matter how vexing life gets, you just gotta try and keep your cool. Just yell out something like farty poo bum bum and get on with your day. Either that or my brain has just been irreversibly f***ed by this garbage fire of a year, which is pretty much proven by the fact that I've spent 2 minutes of a tech show not talking about tech at all, but talking about a dream I had about a dead celebrity who probably a significant percentage of the viewers haven't even heard of. Oh well, I guess that's a kind of intro. Tech Spurt Weekly. So there's not actually been much tech news, pretty thin on the ground this week. We're getting into that sort of Christmas lull where obviously there's not much launch and people can't really be arsed anyway. So yeah, everything's winding down, which means I'll be able to attack that massive pile of kit I've got to review. Or maybe I'll simply attack that booze stash that I've replenished ahead of the inevitable January COVID lockdown. Or maybe a delicious and slightly dangerous combination of both. So the biggest and pretty much the only launch of the week was actually Apple's AirPods Max, a proper over-ear setup which we all expected to launch much earlier in the year. The design's rather nice. Those aluminium cups come in 5 snazzy colours with an adjustable stainless steel frame covered in mesh up top for extra comfort. The AirPods Max boast all the usual premium headphone features like active noise cancellation and high fidelity and spatial audio support, while the physical controls include a digital crown that does pretty much everything: skipping tracks, changing volume, answering calls, and so on. You'll get around 20 hours of playback with the ANC switched on. That's according to Apple. Of course, we'll see how the actual real-life testing holds up. And yes, it is Apple's lightning charger that you will need to power them back up again. And when you're not using the AirPods Max, you can convert them into a fetching bra purse thing to carry them about. And the Apple AirPods Max will be available from December the 15th for £549. No, that's £549. Yes, that really was a 549. Otherwise you can bump it up to 600 quid if you want 2 years of Apple Care support as well. No, I'm not taking the piss. That's the actual price. Go on the Apple website right now and look it up. That's how much it costs. Yes, I'm fully aware that that's £200 more expensive than Sony's excellent XM4s and pretty much any other shit-hot rivals out there as well. Yes, it's even more expensive than the next-gen consoles. Look, this is the company who literally charges hundreds of pounds for wheels that fit on the bottom of a computer. sooner. What were you expecting? Now, the other big news this week is, of course, that Facebook is now the subject of multiple antitrust lawsuits filed by the US government and 48 states and districts. And most of the focus is, of course, on Facebook's purchase of WhatsApp and Instagram, both of which happened frickin' years ago, which makes me wonder, like, what have these people been doing in the interim? Why hasn't this happened sooner? I mean, better late than never, but seriously, the situation's been getting pretty dire for a while now. They're just buying up absolutely everything out there. I don't know, maybe the people responsible for filing lawsuits against giant tech monopolies were so broken up over the Brangelina divorce that they just couldn't function for several years. And to that I say, I perfectly 100% understand. It was devastating. So anyway, that's pretty much all the tech shenanigans I've spotted that's been going on this week. So now it's time, unfortunately, for the part of the show that's about as enjoyable as clearing out a train station urinal with just your face. It's fewer comments. Boom! Fewer comments. So last week we were discussing some rather bizarre Kindle Smut for no real reason, just another one of those wild tangents that the show always seems to go on. And of course one of the efforts we examined was this little delight here, claimed by Daddy. I was a little bit confused by some of the terminology used in the description, including ABDL, no idea what that was. Well, Duke Guy has swept in to the rescue. He says ABDL equals Adult Baby Diaper Lover. And now I'm on a watch list, you're welcome. Yeah, I think I saw a Jerry Springer episode about that when I was like 14 years old. Absolutely scarred for life. Question is though, Mr. Beefcake here, is he the one who goes poopy in his pants? As it says claimed by Daddy, I'm assuming that maybe he's the one. Oh, I don't even want to think about it actually. Oh, and by the way, on this subject as well, you might remember last week I predicted that my Amazon targeted advertising would be royally bollocks thanks to looking up all these dodgy books, and sure enough, this is the kind of delightful stuff that it's now recommending I purchase. So I'm gonna be hiding these emails from my family, I think. Next up, MA says waiting for the Spurt romance novel. I think the problem there is though that any romance novel that I wrote would be far too quaint for modern audiences' taste. It certainly wouldn't involve breastfeeding a 40-year-old baby man, or you know, a couple just literally rubbing in each other's faces. Like seriously, if they rebooted When Harry Met Sally these days, Harry would probably meet Sally in a BDSM club with her squatting over his chest, unleashing hot fury before bunging a cactus up his arsehole. Sticking with the slightly kinky, weird stuff, Damon Black says nothing wrong with sex in a graveyard, so I've heard. The problem with this is, like any couple in any movie where they've been doing it in a graveyard, it's never ended well for them, rather predictably. There's one obscure one which I've just had to look up because I couldn't actually remember the name. It's 1114, bit of a bizarre title, surprising that I couldn't remember that, where the couple is shagging in a graveyard and then literally a tombstone falls on the dude's head and just crushes it like it was papier-mâché. So between that and the general creepiness, I think I'm tapping out of that one, definitely. Liam, short for William, says Fridays are for Techspert Weekly, The Mandalorian and drinking. I'm glad you included drinking, a very important component in any Friday, of course. Yeah, The Mandalorian I need to catch up on actually, major slackage. I'm still on series 1. The problem is I've been playing a bit of Assassin's Creed Valhalla and that's really got me in a proper Viking mood, so I've been smashing through Vinland Saga again over on Amazon Prime Video. If you haven't seen it before and you like a bit of sort of more mature anime but still got a good sense of humour, then definitely check that out. Next up, 2009 John B says just bought the Realme X50 5G based on your recommendations, so it better not be Well, obviously, I really hope that you like it, John B. I also really hope that you're not like in the mafia or some sort of crime gang and would actually come to my house and kneecap me if it turned out you did think it was But it's not it is good. It is good. Please don't kill me. Next up, on the subject of manufacturers who confirmed that they would be releasing smartphones with the Snapdragon 888 chipset, that's Qualcomm's snazzy new super flagship chipset to take on the likes of the Apple A14 and everything. Aswad says, do my eyes deceive me, or was there Sharp on the list? I didn't know they were still around. They are in bloody deed. Still launching smartphones as well. They launched a couple back in September. Yeah, here we go. The Aqua Zero 5G Basic, which isn't actually that basic. Snapdragon 765G, 120Hz OLED display, Android 11, pretty respectable specs, sort of to take on the likes of the Pixel 5. Unfortunately, there's been absolutely bugger all word from Sharp since then, and it probably wouldn't get a UK release anyway. It'd be one of those things you'd have to sort of troll the internet for. Next up, Pradivan, sorry, I probably completely mauled the pronunciation of your name there, says, I remember seeing another video with Sony confirming using the Snapdragon 888. Yeah, I mean, I'd be absolutely shocked if the Snapdragon 888 wasn't plunged into the Xperia 1 Mark III. Definitely looking forward to that a little meaty number being launched early next year. Let's just hope it isn't launched around February, March time as usual, and then released in like July, August time again. PK says the Moto G10 will have the 865, not the 888. They only said it would have an 8 processor, not an 888. Well, in the press release that I received, they didn't specifically mention the G10, they just said a G series smartphone, and they did specifically say the 888 as well. And I quote, "Today, Qualcomm announced its upcoming flagship processor, the Qualcomm Snapdragon 888 5G mobile platform. Motorola is proud to be bringing this mobile platform to our devices next year." And then a couple of lines further down, they specifically mentioned G series as well. So yeah, very interesting turn of events. I'll be intrigued to see what happens with the whole G series. I really do hope they keep them affordable and don't like release a G10 for £500. Be kind of slightly going against the spirit of the whole thing, though I don't see how they could release an affordable phone with the 888 in it. That's just going to be mind-blowing. Well, absolutely loads of Snapdragon 888 comments. Danger says, every time you say 888, it sounds like you're stuttering from too many shots of vodka. I think you have too many shots of vodka, mate. Soul Cancelling says, excellent info about the Snapdragon 888 and up the borough. Up the borough indeed, sitting quite nicely in the championship at the moment, about mid-table. So yeah, I envy you guys, definitely. Who knows if or when Sunderland will ever be playing the Borough again, probably not be for a while. More crack from a fellow Northerner as well. Daffyd says, don't tell me you knocked around at the Revolution bar in Quayside. Not so much knocked around, more kind of stumbled around. But the Revolution bar we used to go to was the one that was basically just across the road from the main train station. So it was always the first bar we'd hit on a night out, which is a really bad idea when you think about it. Hey, let's pad our stomach for a big night of drinking with some really nasty Bailey's shots and horrible flavoured vodka. Oh, I've actually got bile rising up my throat just at the thought of those Bailey's monstrosities, the ones that used to sort of curdle before they even hit your stomach. And then from there we'd basically stagger our way down the hill, hitting various other joints, eventually end up in the quayside, and our final protocol was usually Beach Club, which is fantastic. Awesome cheesy 80s tunes, criminally cheap alcohol, and usually a fight or two for good measure as well. And that wasn't me involved in the fights, by the way, in case anyone was actually wondering. I haven't been in a ruck since I was like 16 or something, and even then I would use the pins to oh look technique. I'd scream, oh look! And then while their backs were turned, I would leg it. Next up, Etienne says, if piss and flaps don't count as Macam swearies, where do you stand on piss flaps? Oh, you don't want to be standing on piss flaps, mate. That sounds really painful. Although I'm sure there's an entire Kindle subgenre dedicated just to that. Next up, Alistair says, taking bets on how many phones Motorola will release in the UK in 2021. That's a good idea, actually. You should make a game of it, like a Price is Right, closest without going over. So I'm going to go for... I'm going to be optimistic. I'm going to say only 28. So that's basically one a fortnight. I think that's sort of reasonable. Next up, Bum Eye says, should I go with the Poco X3 NFC for the best performance for a low price, or should I wait for a new device, maybe the Poco X4? I mean, this is kind of the problem, is that every couple of weeks there comes along a new budget phone that blows everything else that came before it out of the water. You know what? The Poco X3 is fantastic. I say it, I'll get off the pot. Just grab the Poco X3. Guaranteed something better will come along in 2021. But then a couple of weeks later, something even better will come along. You're probably always going to get buyer's remorse of some description. And also, John was asking, Poco X3 or the Mi 10T Lite, which should I get? I was hoping to do a side-by-side with the two of them. I haven't got the Poco X3 in anymore, unfortunately. But I'd say basically, if camera is your priority, Poco X3 all the way. Mi 10T Lite does bump up the specs in a couple of areas. And obviously, it's got the 5G support, but I'd say the camera is still better on the Poco X3. And next up, Lee and Tia are both asking about good Android alternatives to iPhones with good cameras and good battery life. I think the Pixel smartphones are a good stepping stone from the iPhones. You know, you don't have a big heavy launcher, you know, an absolute abundance of features and stuff to get your head around. They've got good camera tech, they've got good battery life as well, the 2020 efforts. Alternatively, I mean, if you want to be spending that little bit more cash, you've got the likes of the Samsung Galaxy S20 Fan Edition, which again comes in a range of great colours, just like the iPhone. You've got, you know, really nice premium specs, good camera, good battery life, all the good stuff. And I really like the OnePlus 8T as well, similar sort of price actually, compared to the OnePlus 8T and the S20 FE 5G right here on TechSperts. Go check that out to see which one might be better for you. Oh, and massively going over time as usual, so last comment for the week. Paul Bewley says, my music to signify the end of the weekend was the theme to the Hill Street Blues. When I heard that, I knew I had school the next day. Yeah, I do wonder if I heard the Heartbeat theme tune right now, if we just sort of trigger that melancholia In my brain I would get all like sad and like, oh god, hate Sunday evenings suck. So anyway, next week is looking pretty chill on the tech front again. Unsurprisingly, there's not really going to be many launches. I do have one launch actually in the calendar for the week after, surprisingly, just before Christmas, literally just before Christmas, but I can't tell you about that right now because I'm embargoed right up the wazoo. But I will be taking part in a Sony Call of Duty tournament thing next week. I don't know any of the details about that, so hopefully bring you some more information on that next week. Basically, instead of me having my ass handed to me by random 12-year-olds online, I'll probably be having my ass handed to me by random influencers instead. Hooray. And that's basically it. So thank you very much to everyone who commented last week. Please do bung your comments down below. If you haven't done so already, poke subscribe and ding that notifications bell for more fantastic Dale Winton dream anecdotes. Who would want to miss out on that? And of course, have yourselves a lovely holly jolly little weekend. Cheers everyone. Love you.